Okay, for the last 5 years I wanted to get my hands on some vintage Zildjian cymbals, and I finally managed to get some hi-hats. So let's run you through how and why I got them and what they sound like on the kit when I set them up. Let's go. Okay, just for a bit of context, I was bought my kit, luckily enough, by my parents when I was first starting out drumming, and all the cymbals and toms and stuff came with it, obviously, and they're all Pearl branded. And a thing that I hated probably the most out of my kit were my hi-hats, because they felt really tinny, really cheap, and they bent really easily. At the time I was playing a lot of rock, and a lot of the lathing has come off really quickly around the edge. So I've always wanted a load of cymbals, and it was always the jazz guys then that got me into those. So yeah, obviously I was captivated quite a lot by the sound of these old jazz guys like Philly Joe, Max Roach, that sort of thing. And obviously quite a lot of them use these old Ks. Save spending $1,000 on cymbals, I really didn't want to do that. So I wanted a cymbal that could capture that sort of old sound while not being too expensive. So I landed on these. So these are 1950s 14-inch Zildjian small stamp hi-hats with the top weighing in at 794, so quite light. The bottom being slightly heavier but almost a matched pair, like an 832. When I was researching these, I couldn't decide whether I wanted a large stamp, a small stamp or a trans stamp. It just felt like the small stamp worked best for the sound that I was going for out of the three, personally. Weirdly, unlike my hunt for my ride, it felt like the hunt for the hi-hats was going to be quite quick, because I hopped on a couple of days researching and I found a pair that I really liked, and I was going to put a bid in and then they sold, which you do tend to find happens quite often. So I ended up researching a little bit, ended up being about a month before I found these, and I paid for them to come over from America. Luckily didn't get hit by the tax, which is quite good. But price-wise, I think I paid about $250 for these. So I think it was very worth the money in my opinion. Let's set them up, show you how I set them up, how I'm going to improve my setup in the future, and show you the comparison between these guys and my old guys. So let's go. Okay, let's show you how I set these guys up then, and show you how, unfortunately, I'm rapidly finding out how bad my hardware is. So first off, identify the bottom hi-hat. Thankfully the guy that I bought these off has written bottom and the grammage, because it's very difficult to tell. And then you slap that one on. Thankfully with these old ones, the little drill hole can be sometimes too small, and that can lead to you having to either very carefully drill out a new hole, or you find a very old vintage hi-hat stand. So you put the clutch on. At some point I'm looking to get rubber sort of felts instead of these felt, if that makes sense, because it tends to not muffle the sound of the hi-hat. You do get a bit of a muffled sound with these felts. So I don't want to do it too tight because that can kill the sound. And then I tend to put it on and leave a fairly big gap, because as we see, my hardware is not brilliant. I think I'm loosening that, I'm not tightening it actually. So yeah, that's how I would set my hi-hats up quickly. Okay, the last thing I want to show you is what this little knob here does. So if you tighten this, it will actually tilt the bottom head of the hi-hat, and that leads to the hi-hats not landing on each other like directly, and it sort of leads to them landing at an angle, and that doesn't kill the hi-hat sound, and it makes it sort of a more crisp sort of chick sound that you really want out of your hi-hats. Okay, so there's a few sort of high profile things I noticed with these cymbals as compared to the old ones. So firstly, obviously they're a lot lighter than the old ones, so I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but definitely for jazz, as opposed to the more faster grooves, they're way more articulate and way more light and dark and that sort of thing. Light as in weight and then dark as in articulate on the sticks. So that's definitely something I've noticed, which is a big pro for my sort of jazzier playing. Also, as I kind of touched on there, when looking at the older sort of cymbals compared to the new ones, you don't notice the difference as much when you're playing faster, louder grooves. And these old vintage cymbals are not great for really, really loud sort of rock grooves, fast sort of stuff like that, because they just don't produce the volume that the more metally sort of tinny newer cymbals do. So that's definitely something to consider if you're going to buy a set of these. Okay, one final thing is also to consider is what sticks you're using on them, because it can make a big difference on the sound. So if we start off with these lighter 7A sticks compared to the heavier 5As. I hope the camera can pick up that difference. If it doesn't, don't worry. Do consider and try and play these ones with your sticks. If you can, go and visit someone in person to check out how your sticks sound on them before you go and buy a pair. It's just something to consider before you go and grab one of these. So in conclusion, I would definitely recommend this pair of cymbals. It's really upgraded my sound on the kit, and hopefully in the future they're only going to sound nicer, and maybe they'll hold their value and get more expensive as well if I were to sell them on. So if you have enjoyed, do make sure to drop a like, sub, check out my other videos, and yeah, have a good rest of the day.